to everybody of this teacher above all teachers, which is formulated in the following words. Brother, here on earth, if you speak the truth, you're a great fool. Whereas if you wriggle with your soul, you are only a scoundrel, though also a big one. So it is best of all to do nothing, but just recline on your divan and learn to sing like the sparrow that had not yet turned into an American canary. Now, my boy, absorb carefully the information about the causes of the gradual disharmonization in the presences of these contemporary beings of the continent America, of their second fundamental being function, namely the function of sex. The disharmony of this function in them is due also to several causes of diverse character. But the fundamental cause, in my opinion, is their negligence, engendered in their essence and already quite fused with their nature, in keeping their sex organs clean. Just like the beings of the continent of Europe, the care they give to their faces and their use of what is called facial cosmetics are only equaled by their neglect of these said organs of theirs, whereas more or less conscious three-brained beings are required to observe the utmost cleanliness in respect to just these organs. They cannot, however, be entirely blamed, because in this respect, the beings of the continent of Europe are most at fault with their customs existing in the process of their ordinary being existence. The point is that this as yet recently arisen contemporary large group is almost exclusively formed and continues to be supplied with beings from various large and small groups populating the continent of Europe. The result is that even if the majority of the three-brained beings now composing this newly formed large group there are not themselves emigrants from the continent of Europe, their fathers or grandfathers were, who, migrating to this continent of America, took along with them also their European customs, among which were those which brought about this uncleanliness in respect of their sex organs. So, my boy, when I now tell you how the matter stands as regard the sex question among the Americans, bear in mind that everything I say will also refer to the beings of the continent Europe. The results of this uncleanliness of the contemporary three-brained beings of the planet Earth who have taken your fancy, and who breed on the continents of Europe and America, are very clearly indicated in my statistics. Let us take, for example, what are called their venereal diseases. These diseases are so widespread on the continent of Europe and on this continent of America that at the present time you will scarcely ever meet a being who has not one or another form of those diseases. There is no harm in your knowing, among other things, a little more about those interesting and peculiar data, which in my statistics indicate in figures how much more of these diseases there is among the beings of the continents America and Europe than among those of the continent Asia. Many of these venereal diseases are entirely absent among the beings of the old communities of the continent of Asia, whereas among the beings populating the continents Europe and America, these diseases are almost epidemical. Let us take, for example, what is called clap, or as scientists there call it, gonorrhea. On the continent of Europe and America, almost all the beings, both of male and female sex, have this disease in one of its different stages. But on the continent Asia, it is met with only on the borders, where beings frequently mix with the beings of the continent of Europe. A good example of what has just been said are the beings belonging to the group existing there under the name Persia, which occupies a relatively large territory on the continent Asia. Among the beings dwelling in the central, eastern, southern, and western areas of this relatively large territory, the mentioned diseases are not to be found at all. But in the northern part, especially in the locality called Azerbaijan, which comes into direct contact with the large half-European, half-Asiatic community called Russia, the percentage of beings infected with this disease increases more and more in proportion to their proximity to this Russia. And exactly the same occurs in other eastern countries of the continent of Asia. The percentage of this disease increases proportionately to the contact of their beings with the beings of the continent of Europe. For example, in the country called India, and partly in China, this disease has in recent times become widespread among the beings there, chiefly in those places where they come in contact with European beings of the community England. It can thus be said that the chief disseminators of this disease among the beings of the continent Asia are, from the northern side, the beings of the large group Russia, and from the eastern side, the beings of the community England. The cause of the absence of this disease, as well as of many other evils in the said parts of the continent of Asia, is, in my opinion, that the majority of the beings of the continent Asia have several very good customs for their everyday existence, which have reached them likewise from their ancient ancestors. And these customs are so deeply implanted in their everyday existence by their religion, that at the present time, observing them mechanically without any wiseacring, beings are thereby more or less insured against several evils, which, owing to the abnormally established conditions of being existence, have been gradually formed, and still continue to be formed in uncountable numbers on that ill-fated planet. The beings of most of the groups on the continent Asia are safeguarded against many venereal diseases as well as against any other sexual abnormalities, if only, for instance, by such customs known there by the names Sunyat and Abdest. The first of these customs, namely Sunyat, or as it is otherwise called, circumcision, not only saves most of the Asiatic beings of responsible age from many venereal diseases there, but also safeguards many of the children and youths of the continent of Europe and America against, namely, that scourge known there under the name onanism. According to this custom, the beings of responsible age in most of the contemporary groups of the continent of Asia usually perform on their results, that is to say, on their children, at a certain age, a ritual which consists in this, that in the case of boys, they cut what they call the frenum and prepus of the penis. And today, those children of your contemporary favorites, who of course automatically are subjects of this custom, are almost completely safeguarded against the inevitable result of several evils already definitely fixed in the process of the existence of your favorites. For example, according to my statistics, the said scourge, that is, children's onanism, is scarcely met with among the children of those three-brained beings there who observe this custom of circumcision, whereas all the